Hello, everyone. I'm Alejandro Estivil, the Consul General of Mexico, again with this series of different presentations about the quality and the different brands of Mexican wine that today are more important here in the Quebec market. And in this occasion, it's such a pleasure to have with us one of the, I would call the golden parts of this kind of presentation, which is Casa Madero, and with the presence of the CEO of Casa Madero, Mr. Daniel Milmo. Is incredible our experience, I think, as a diplomat. Every diplomat that has been in the world is a fan of Casa Madero because could be one of the is the oldest winery that has been in America, but also one of the most international ones of Mexican wines in the world. And that's why we diplomats know Casa Madero, and every moment that we have the opportunity to promote this Casa Madero, which is such a quality, we know that we present ourselves and we present Mexico at the highest level. The excel of Mexican wine is today with us, with Daniel Milmo. So I ask you, Sergio Rivadeneira, to go on with this conversation. It's such a pleasure to have Casa Madero, and let's go on. Your mic, Sergio, you're forgetting to put on your microphone.
Sorry. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Daniel, for your presence. We will start with a short video of Casa Madero that you send us to us, and after that, we will give you the word for your presentation. So, guys, give us a minute. We'll put the video right now.
This is Casa Madero Grapes, actually very popular in Mexico. Three different grapes: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Tempranillo. Very balanced. For sure, a lot of light fruits in here, dark fruits, some chocolate, hints of cinnamon. What an excellent wine! I've been cooking since I was probably 8 years old, with grandpa, with mom, with my father, so probably around 35 years that I've been cooking. Casa Madero is the oldest winery in the Americas, 423 years. Casa Madero is the first organic vineyard in Mexico, and the Madero family has been operating the vineyard for 125 years. I think all the wines that they make in Casa Madero are so special because when you taste the wines, you taste the hard work, their passion behind in each wine that they do. The heart and everything that they put in here is just amazing. And not just making wine, but they do a lot of charities for unprivileged girls down in Mexico, and that makes it so special as well. You know, it's not just the ones that they do to the community in Mexico. It's just amazing. Thank you for doing it. Wow, what I love about this Chardonnay, it's not oaky, you know, but it's really tropical. Pineapple, ripe pineapples in here. This one with seafood, I think is amazing with some of my dishes. You can imagine this with a nice ceviche, mole verde. I think it's gonna be amazing. You know, I'm really excited to showcase Casa Madero and bring these wines to Suco. It's just been my culture, and people really get surprised at how amazing are these wines, and absolutely a match with my food so well. I'm very grateful and proud to have these wines in here. You know, Michelin star for me it changed my entire life. You know, it's amazing, you know, because one of the things that I want to do in the U.S. and the rest of the world is just to showcase my Mexican cuisine, you know, my country and the culture behind. And then for me to be the first Mexican ever won a Michelin star is just open the door so people can look at Mexico, you know, how amazing the country is to do everything, the food, the wine, you know, whatever they do is just something really amazing. This one, the Gran Reserva Cabernet Sauvignon. This is my favorite wine. Every time that I, close my eyes and smell this wine, it makes me think about my carne asada that I have with goat cheese fondue. Someone asked me, if I know I'm gonna die tomorrow, my last meal it has to be, an amazing steak, a ribeye, goat cheese fondue, potatoes, oven roasted tomatoes, and this beautiful wine. That will be my last meal. The long finish that it has is just amazing. So far, this is my best wine. Salud.
Wow. Without further introduction, Daniel, I leave you the floor for the presentation of Casa Madero. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Sergio, and thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for this opportunity to share a little bit about what we do and what's behind our bottles. And I'll be very happy to share a slide presentation with a few photos of our vineyard. And I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of the details of our history, which is a very, very rich history as a winery. Casa Madero, as mentioned before, it's been named by several wine and drinks magazines from England and from the US as the sixth oldest winery that has been continuously operating in the world. So there are probably other vineyards or wineries that existed, but that are not there anymore, not continually, or have been making wine nonstop ever since. So this makes us different in that way, and it puts us in this list of being the oldest winery, sixth oldest winery in the world. And how did Casa Madero come about? Well, we are located in the north part of Mexico, and as the conquistadors came from Spain in late 16th century, it was kind of a similar situation what would happen in California during the gold rush time. There was a kind of a gold rush in the time also in Mexico, where they had found a lot of gold and silver in the mountains of Zacatecas. Mountains Zacatecas are literally on the back doors of where our vineyard is located. So they had found gold in the mountains behind, and they were coming towards the valleys, more towards the north, looking for the same. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, they did not find any gold in our valley, but they did find an abundance of water. There was a lot of mountain springs flowing naturally off these foothills, which were on the back of where they had already found gold. And by the way, these mines today are still running. Those mines are still coming up with gold, and they're still operating with, silver and gold. So the conquistadors came across these natural water springs that were actually flowing from these foothills, and on these streams they found native vines that were already growing in these streams. So they thought, and they learned from nature, that the weather was adequate. There was the required conditions to grow grapes, because there was natural or native grapes already there. So a few years back, they returned to the same valley, but now with the intentions of settling the valley, and settling it with a permanent, permanently. So that was what happened, and they, because of the abundance of water, they were able to settle and establish a community. And what happened next was the religious were sent. The Jesuits were coming in, sent by the Spanish crown, and in their mandate was that they would proliferate, or would put across, the Catholic religion. And together with that, there was the Catholic Church rites that happened. So there was wine needed to be made in order for this rituals to happen. So they brought vines with them, and that was the first time that they were planted coming from Europe. So the Jesuits were the missionaries that established a mission which was called Misión de Santa María de las Parras, Mission of Mary of Holy Vines, because of the natural, the native vines that were already there. So that was how the valley started, and a person that was interested in locating and establishing a wine or a grape growing production, he found another spring like 8 kilometers north of where the first settlement was established, and requested the king, back then was Philip II, to be able to establish legally in this area. And he received a land title or a land grant coming from the King Philip II, which we were calling Spain back then. They dated the 19th of August of 1597. That's the original date when this state was founded. And it happens that we currently hold this original document, which we're going to talk about it a little bit further in our presentation. But this is the original document that really validates our foundation or our establishment date. And in it, it has all the different families. I'm part of the Madero family, which purchased this state in 1893. And before that, I'm going to talk about the terroir in a minute. So if you can go back, Sergio, and I'll come back. So it lists all the families that own the property till it was purchased by my great-great-great-grandfather in 1893. So we have all the history of how it was purchased and what inventories were there, and how the operations and the transactions happened until my family. So we're located, this location is right in the center of Mexico. We're below Texas, the border, and it's right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, or we call them the Sierra Madres, which become the Rockies, or eventually as they go south, they become the Andes Mountains. So we're on the very edge of these range of mountains, and we're at a high altitude of 5,000 feet above sea level, which makes us have a cooler weather, cooler climate, cooler nights, warmer days, because we're on the edge of the desert, which makes it very dry and have that that warmer conditions for the grapes to be able to mature properly. But due to the altitude and the desert, we have this cooler night condition every night, which varies between 15 and 20 degrees difference between day and night. That's our temperature difference on the hottest temperature to on the coldest temperature. So those are the conditions that we have. Very little precipitation. We have 300 milliliters average rain a year, which makes us have to irrigate our vineyard. All of our vineyard is irrigated with the water that flows from these mountain springs, and a few other wells that we've drilled to have enough water for the whole vineyard. We currently have 800 acres of vineyard, out of which 150 are organic. So we have been growing grapes in this valley for the last 400 and some years. So that validates that the weather is and the soil conditions are proper, and the awards that we've won with the quality of the grape that's been growing in this valley gives the proof of what the quality can be made out of what the valley provides in as far as climatic conditions, and what we do to the grapes and the vines ourselves to manage them properly, to be able to have the most quality out of those grapes. So that's more or less what the conditions are. And I was talking about the book that I was mentioning, where it has the owners of the vineyard since its initial land grant, which was given to Lorenzo Garcia. And this first owner, Lorenzo Garcia, established there at the time of 1597. And that's why the estate is called San Lorenzo, because it's in honor of his name, Hacienda San Lorenzo. And we had an image change in our labels about 10 years ago. And we decided that we asked our brand manager or brand designer to be able to, we wanted to have the label be able to tell the story and be able to, in a way, inspire the experience of visiting our estate. So what they did is they got some extracts from the original land grant, which is these manuscripts were all handwritten, where we have the titles, and it describes the land and the inventory of things that were there, and so the designers decided to take an extract of these of this land grants and put it on the label in order to be able to tell the story. And then there's a texture on each label which tries to imitate the texture of the walls from our estate, which has a very peculiar texture to it because it's been painted for hundreds and hundreds of years with clay, with a white paint, which makes it have this odd texture. And so that was another feature that was thought of as a way of telling our history through our labels. And the white is also because all over the walls and every building in our estate is all white as well. So that's a little bit of how the composition of our labels, and some people ask, well, what does that mean? What are those little writings? And so I'm telling them, well, I cannot read it myself. It's actually part of what the title was describing as a property and the operation or the transaction, how it's going to be happening. So that is what describes our labels. And then I'm going to describe how our different line of products in our vineyard was established. We have around 800 acres of vineyard, and we have, of those, 75% are of red varietals, and 25% are white varietals. We also produce brandy. We have some grapes that are more focused to produce brandy, and that was one of our leader products back in maybe 40, 50 years ago. But in the 1970s, it was decided to focus more on premium quality wines. And since then, we've been replanting our vineyard, rearranging our equipment and our cellars to produce the highest quality wines. And through that, we've actually received some results, given that we've had received a total of 1,000 medals up to date. And so, as I mentioned, it was in 1970 which we decided to focus on high quality wines, and since then we've been adding equipment and focusing all of our new innovations towards making the best quality wine we can. So I'm going to name the white varietal of grapes that we have on the vineyard, and we currently have our most planted white grape is Chardonnay, which is also one of the most awarded wines that we have as a varietal. And then we also have Chenin Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and Gewürztraminer. Those are our white varietals. As I say, 25% of our vineyard in volume or in surface is composed of these grapes. And then we have red varietals. And our red varietals, we have Cabernet, we have, the next slide, Shiraz, Malbec, Merlot, Tempranillo, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot. Those are the main varieties. We always have some experimental varieties, which we always like to have in order to be able to we'll have some new additions to our line of products, and always experimenting with different. We have like 15 varieties experimenting right now in different reds and whites, but those are not here because we're not having volume out of those. So that's what we have as far as the different varieties, and all of our vineyard is, much of it is managed by hand. We always also harvest by hand. And we have skilled people that have been working with us for many, many years. And we also have an Australian vineyard consultant and a Chilean vineyard consultant. The Australian is focused on our premium line of wines, and our Chilean was kind of all around consulting our vineyard. Organic grapes, we have 150 acres of these, which were certified by a German organization based in Mexico, which led us to be certified by the USDA organic norms. And this was done in 2012. And since then, we've been recertifying our vineyard every year. And we currently have 2 labels only of organic grapes, which we have different grapes that have been growing organically. As the previous slide showed, we have some reds and some whites, but we only have 2 labels out, which we are currently selling. As regarding the rest of the wine goes into the blend of all the wines. We have a plan to convert all of the vineyard organic in the next 5 years or so. So that's the goal, and we're not necessarily going to be labeling all our as organic, but it's more of as a personal um, um, personal thing that me and my brother want to have in order to be able to respect nature and respect and work with harmony with the nature in every way we can. We're also in the steps of remodeling our facility, and we're incorporating solar panels as much as we can. We're planning to capture or contain all the rainfall that falls in our grounds and our roofs, cellars, and everywhere we have a surface area that we can pick up the rain. We're having this rain go to a special deposit where we're going to be using all this water. So this is in the way as we speak. We're remodeling our facility to accommodate our latest growth, and also to be able to plan for and prepare for the future requirements as far as sustainable energy and all that. And also tourism. We're very fortunate to have more than 100,000 visits per year pre-COVID, not this past year, but we are really planning to enhance the tourism experience for everyone that wants to visit us, and have that as a first-class experience, similar to where you will find in Napa and anywhere as a first-class vineyard in the world. So that's one of our plans are coming up. I'm going to show you what's our line of products. Our wines, we have 4 main kind of lines of wines. The Grand Reserve, which are like most worked at the vineyard, more reduced yields in the vineyard, and this line we have 5 different bottles or labels. Most of them, all of them are single variety, except the 3V, which is our varietal blend. So we have a Shiraz, we have a Malbec, a Cabernet, and then we have a Chardonnay, which are all 100% varietals. And then we have a 3V, which stands for 3 varieties. And this came to be because we have our most popular label is called 3V on a reserve. This is a Grand Reserve line. We have a reserve, which is these wines would go in through the barrels for about 18 months, more or less, from 18 to 20 months, no more. And our other line goes through aging for about 12 months. So that is the difference. And our most sold label is a 3V for the 12 months, which has 3 varietals as well. It's Merlot, Tempranillo, and Cabernet in the blend in 3 equal parts. And we have the blends, which is the ones that we're going to talk about next, is our blend line. And we have 3 labels there. We have a rosé, which is made out of Shiraz, is more of a Provence style of wine. It's a dry, fruit-forward wine, low alcohol, or 12-11%. Next to it is the red 3V, one I was mentioning, 3 varietals, Cabernet, Merlot, Tempranillo, equal shares, 12 months in barrel. And then we have a white, which is a 2-blend varietal with Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc, equal shares, 50-50, and that does not have any wood or aging in it. So that's our blends label. And then we have organic, as I mentioned before, organic grapes. We have a Chenin Blanc, 100% Chenin Blanc, and a 100% Cabernet. So these 2 wines have been awarded a few gold medals since they've been participating at the most prestigious organic wine competition, which is held in Germany currently, as far as we know. And then our varietal lines, where we show a single variety labels, and we have a Shiraz, a Merlot, a Malbec, and a Cabernet Sauvignon. And then on the whites, we have a Chardonnay. And then this smaller bottle, which is a late harvest wine made out of the Semillon and Custraminer. This is the wine of which the grapes to be made out of are collected or harvested latest, probably in October. We leave these grapes in the vineyard to become almost like a raisin, and then we collect, press, and continue the process as a normal wine. But as obviously you will be able to tell from raisins, you get a very sweet juice. As a result, we have a dessert wine. In a way, not like the ice wine that you guys have over there, which is delicious and beautiful. We have a desert kind of dessert wine, which is left in the vineyard to be able to have more reduced concentration of sugar and flavors, and then processed in that way. So that's our lineup of products. And we believe the quality of our wines comes mostly from our vineyard. So we focus a lot of our efforts in producing the best possible grapes we can. So that's in our prices. As I mentioned, we continuously participate what we think are the most prestigious competitions, more harder to get prices at in the world, and we are receiving awards every year. And some of the most we feel most proud of are these that are being shown on our screen, which were received in 2012. A Malbec in Brussels was called Grand Gold, and a Revelation wine, which were only 5 wines were called Revelation out of all those 8,000 participating. And then in the same year, the next year, sorry, in Paris, Vinali, which is held in Grand Palais, it was selected as our Chenin Blanc received a gold medal out of all the Chenin Blancs, and then all the gold medals of all the whites were competed against each other, and we got the winner prize out of all of them. So we received the best white wine out of all the wines that participated that year in Vinali's Paris in France. And then our Grand Reserve Shiraz 2013, that year, that same vintage received more than 9 gold medals in many different competitions, but this was a very important one. Grand Gold, the Best of Show, Mexico and Mundus Vino in Germany. And then our Grand Reserve Malbec received double gold against these Argentinian tough-to-beat Malbecs. And we got, I think it was the 3rd prize in that competition as well. And also, I want to mention the Grand Reserve Malbec 15 vintage received 95 points out of Wine Enthusiast magazine in London. So that is more or less our first 424 years of experience, and looking forward to our next year's celebration, our 425 anniversary. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being with us and sharing an interest in Mexican wine. Welcome to Casa Madero anytime. You're most welcome to visit. We do have tourism activities available. You can tour the vineyard, the winery, have a tasting, have lunch, have dinner, and even stay if you want.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you. Amazing presentation, beautiful images. Ambassador, you want?
I'm amazed. Thank you, Daniel. Has been great. If I can ask you just a very fast question, how you foresee the future in terms of growing, going to more quality, going more to a Mexican market? What are your goals for the future? Because having such a tradition, a familiar tradition, maybe you are also thinking of a great long future for Casa Madero. What's in your dreams?
Well, definitely, yes. We plan at very long term, and we want to continue to exploit the terroir that we currently have in Parras. We are looking at we already have a piece of land we're kind of already topped, or we cannot continue to grow at our current location, which is surrounding our winery. But we secured a piece of land which is like 30 kilometers away, where we see a great potential for continuing our legacy of growing grapes in this area. It's an area which is in higher elevation. We have felt climate change, definitely. This marks as the beginning. Every year we have seen an earlier harvest date to begin, and that tells us that we're getting warmer and warmer. So we have sourced or looked at this land at which we will be. Our current land is 1,500 meters above sea level, and our next valley, which will be planting next year or beginning next year, it's at 2,100 meters above sea level, which gives us cooler climates. We have secured water in this area as well. So we intend to continue to grow, and probably going to be able to focus our lower grounds or lower altitude vineyards towards white grapes, and then our higher altitude vineyards towards red grapes. So I plan to continue planting vineyards. Maybe we currently have around 800 acres, and we probably want to double that in the next 10 years, and we'll see what happens then.
That's great news, Daniel, because we have so many questions of people here asking us, when is Casa Madero coming to Canada? And that was one of my questions that I wanted to do to you. Well, you have already talked about the medals, but let me just remind the people that are listening that only in 2020, you received 76 medals, and in total, you are almost at 1,000 medals. So to be precise, you are at 978 medals, which is absolutely awesome. And you bring the name of Mexico always to the top in these sites where they are counting the points and everything. So your wine 1597, which is I believe a special vintage, you got 97 points from Decanter, one of those magazines. So it's absolutely amazing. So my question for you is what and a little bit following what Ambassador Steven said, what are we expecting for 2021 in terms of your strategy, but in particular towards the Canadian market? We would really love to have Casa Madero here in Canada, in Quebec in particular, because it's the province that the most consumes red wine. So can you tell us a little bit what your strategy is?
Definitely, yes. Well, after the competition that was recently held in Canada, we received, actually was one of the top 25 rated wines, our Grand Reserve Shiraz. And well, we're working together with to develop the market. We have a person that is helping us introduce the label and the wines to the local markets. Our export team is we have a focus on having a bigger presence or exporting more of our wines, especially to US and Canada, because is the two closest markets to Mexico, and we do have big interest in participating with in Canada, both sides, east side and west side, British Columbia, and also Ottawa, Montreal, to begin distribution at least this year, hopefully.
Hopefully, and you're totally in the market because of your organic wines. That is exactly what the Canadians, the market, the consumer are looking for. Fresh wines, organic wines, certified ones, and you are exactly there. So we really we hope to be an ally for Casa Madero and help you and be all the way there for you, and to have finally to be able to go to the SAC and find Casa Madero. I'm going to take a photo when I when I see that.
Well, certainly this kind of activities helps us a lot, and we very, very much appreciate all your support and help that we received from Ambassador and from you, Sergio, to be able to have a little bit more information about Mexican wines and eventually our wines in the market, which I'm definitely sure it will happen very soon.
Thank you, Daniel. Ambassador, did you wanted to say something?
Oh, go ahead, Sergio.
I have a last question because, and it goes more to the history of your family and the history, the tradition of Casa Madero. So at one point I was reading that Evaristo Madero, he was the grandfather of President Madero, a Mexican and hero of the revolution. So since you have so much history, you're talking about not decades, but centuries of history. How has Casa Madero sailed through so many stages in Mexican history? How have you been, synchronizing with the Mexican history? What has Casa Madero given to Mexican history to this point? And is it because of the family traditions? Are you because of innovation and how you have managed, to always be on top in the technology? How do you say Casa Madero has been there in these processes?
Well, I think we've had a roller coaster ride, to be honest, because there has been very good years and there's very bad years as well. The company was able to focus on different products that were always sourced from grapes. We talked about spirits, and at one point, brandy was made, and then there was a very young spirit, which was an unaged white brandy that was also a product leader at some point. So that's, I think, how the company was able to manage to continue, was to reinvent and to reproduce or relaunch products that were in the consumer's mind at that moment. But I must tell you that it has been not easy. There's been times when there was almost very close to becoming shut down. But I guess there's always this passion, and we managed to come along with different products that were of interest to consumers, and reconnect again and be there as a favorite brand for consumers, as we are now on our wine for the 3V, as we can say. But it's not been easy, and it's very difficult also to deal with family. Fortunately, we've had the opportunity to have the same strategy, the same points of view, the same interests, and that has merged into the same strategy with the whole family. In that respect, gave us the opportunity to continue in the way we are doing it now.
Well, hopefully we will see much more of Casa Madero in Mexico and here in Canada. Thank you so much, Daniel. Ambassador, if you want to give us some closing, I think we have gone a little bit further, 36 minutes. But I could stay listening to you, Daniel, for the whole hour, actually, and the stories of Casa Madero. Thank you so much, Daniel. It was a pleasure to have you. Pleasure your presentation and the videos, and we really, really hope to find Casa Madero soon here in Mexico. And I'll be sure to go to Casa Madero, visit you guys when I travel back home, hopefully soon.
Most welcome. Anytime you can visit, and we'll be very happy to host you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. It's my pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for sharing this time.
I only have, Daniel, as a last thing to say is the quality of the wine, the quality of the presentation, the greatest thing we have with you, but also how gentle and friendly to all of us you have been and your team. Please, I would like to say to the audience as well that working with you, to know about you, is such a pleasure for all of us, and your team has been always helpful, always open to any kind of ideas, experiences. So I know that for all the stakeholders that could be interested in Casa Madero, they will find someone friendly in you and your team, and in every part of the great institution that this family Casa Madero has become. Thank you again from the part of the consulate.
Thank you so much.
We are honored by your presence here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.